Hi, everyone. Unless you've been on vacation on a mountain somewhere with no internet access, you're probably aware of what's been going on in Israel and Gaza. And Rashid, what I find interesting about all of this is that for years there's been a war in Yemen, and Saudi Arabia and the UAE are bombing Yemen, and they're killing civilians and bombing weddings, and I never hear a word about this from the media. As soon as something involves Israel, it's international news every single day for the next 3 to 6 months. So any ideas on what's going on in there? Seems to be some different standards going on.
Not only that, you would not see protests all over the world, in UK, in London, and New York, when the Yazidis were sold as sex slaves. Nobody did that. When the Christians in Mosul, in Iraq, they were kicked out of their city, nobody did any protest in UK, or you didn't see hundreds of thousands of people. You didn't see those universities are making protests and signs against Muslims attacking Christians and asking jizya from them or to convert to Islam. You only see it now because really we don't care about the victims, because we care only who is the perpetrator. If it's a Jew, then we care. You mentioned Yemen, for example. It has been since 2011. It's almost 11 years. And now we have 150,000 deaths because of that war. 11,000 of them are children.
And you can it's very easy to find the pictures of like starving kids. I mean, they're nothing but bones with skin, and they can't even move. They're lying on the ground because they're starving. We don't hear a word about this.
Because it's Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates. It's Muslims who are doing those things, so nobody cares. Only we care if Jews are involved, because we don't want them to be taking the land of Muslims or making any harm to any Muslim, even if it's Hamas and even if they are terrorists. We don't want them to harm them.
Now, wait a minute. We've got like 49 Muslim majority countries, a huge portion of the world, and then you've got this tiny little piece of land, and it's anything that happens on that little piece of land. Then all of a sudden, I mean, college campuses around the world, marches around the world, and what do you think's going on with the Jews there?
Jews are, since the beginning of Islam, they are hated by the first Muslim community, including Muhammad, until today. And that hatred, it needs a trigger. So we hated as Muslims. When I say hate, because I belong to the Muslim Ummah, Muslim nation, so I know how they think, and that's how I used to think. So when I say we, I just know the mentality. We used to hate every Jew, all through history. When you read history of Islam, you will see it clearly in the text and incidents. So we need a trigger. Israel is the trigger right now. 1948 is the trigger. It's not the cause. And people think because of Israel occupying the land, that's why we are doing that. But that's not the truth. Actually, there were massacres against Jews even before that. And I can mention few, for example. In Morocco, we had the massacre of Fez. Fez is a famous city in Morocco. That's 1033. It's, 900 years before Israel. Moroccans killed 6,000 Jews in one day. I can give you another one in Iraq, 1941. It's called the Farhud massacre. They killed between 200 to 1,000. We don't have the exact numbers. And the name of it tells everything. It's Farhud. In Arabic, Far means he ran away. Hud is Yehud, the Jews. The Jews ran away on that day. So they still have it in Iraq. They call it the Farhud Day. So the day when the Jews left. It's 1941. Israel didn't exist back in those days. We have one, and also the Hebron massacre. It happened before the foundation of Israel. We had 67 Jews that were killed. All these things just shows you that Jews, they were hated, and we have it in the text. If we can really dig into Muslim texts and show you exactly what we thought of them.
Yeah, and this was something that interested me way back when I was starting to learn about Islam. So the main reason early on that I was studying Islam was just that my best friend was a Muslim. But Nabil, he was from the most peaceful sect of Islam, the Ahmadis. Their motto is love for all, hatred for none.
Yeah.
And yet, even with Nabil, when the topic of Israel or Jews would pop up, he would suddenly become like a different person. like even he was enraged. And I was like, wait a minute, I thought you're the nice one here.
Well, because when you are raised and brainwashed from childhood that those are the enemies of Muslims, what do you think I will think when I grow up? I had to work and struggle with it to overcome that hatred for years. It wasn't easy. Probably for you grow up in a different background, so you didn't feel it. I felt it so strong. You can't even shake a hand of a Jew because all the ideas that they taught us, that he is unclean, he is cursed, he is hated by God, they are the enemies of our prophet, they tried to kill him, they tried to bewitch him. There's all this history, it's embedded in our DNA. So when you think of a Jew, what image is going to come to your mind if you were raised since childhood to think they are the monsters, they are the killers, they are the bloodsuckers? So what are you going to think about them when you see a Jew?
And this is, I find this really interesting how this unfolded in the lifetime of Muhammad. Because when he's in Mecca, it seems like his view is, hey, it's Muslims and Christians and Jews, and we're all going to be united against the pagans and the polytheists and so on. But all the monotheists are going to be on the same side.
Yeah.
And when he's receiving his revelations in Mecca and he's surrounded by polytheists, just over and over again, it's like he's setting up the Jews as these authorities in matters of religion. Like they can confirm it. They'll confirm it with their books. When they see me, they're going to acknowledge that I'm a prophet.
Yeah.
And so for years, he's telling his followers, his entire community, guys, wait till we talk to these Jews. Wait till they talk to these Jews. They're gonna give me a big handshake and say, yes, this is our prophet.
Yeah.
And then so he does this for years, and then he finally moves up to Medina. And the Jews are like, what? You're not a prophet. Get out of here. What are you talking about?
Exactly.
You're the most obvious false prophet in history. Exactly. What are you talking about? You're an Ishmaelite? We don't know what you're talking about.
I'm there in your book. Just check. You'll find
where? Book of Trust Me, bro. Where are you in here?
So that's exactly what happened. When you read the surahs, for example, in Mecca, he was talking about nature, and look at mountains, look at the sky, look at all these natural stuff, and it shows there is a God and only one God. And hey, Christians approve that, Jews approve that, and I am talking about Abraham, Moses, and Jesus. See, we're all a family. Mm-hmm. We're against the polytheists. And when he moved to Medina, he was like, right? They were like, no, we are not with you.
Yep.
We have a different narrative. And when he knew he was rejected by Jews and Christians, he started attacking them one by one. And he started making excuses to justify kicking out Jews, killing them, enslaving their women and their kids. For every tribe, he found an excuse. Mm-hmm. And when you read it, you see clearly he had a plan to get rid of them because they were a threat to his prophecy.
Yeah, and the biggest threat, I mean, if he's saying that he's in their scriptures, and he doesn't actually know their scriptures, they know their scriptures, they have their scriptures, then these are the people who are best equipped in the world to expose him as a false prophet. And that's exactly what they start doing. And he becomes more and more enraged at them until, as you pointed out, you had the Banu Qaynuqa.
Yes.
And so you have a Jewish tribe, and they're like merchants and goldsmiths and so on. But his justification for expelling them was a prank. Someone did a prank. One of the Jewish merchants did a prank on a Muslim woman, sort of pinned her dress to a bench or something like this, and she stands up, and then people
she got uncovered.
Yeah, people saw her uncovered and so on, and that becomes the basis for expelling the entire tribe. Tabari says that Muhammad wanted to kill them all. Then he wanted to kill the entire tribe. But they actually had some Arab allies, and
they protected them.
They protected them, said, hey, don't kill them, and so on.
Yeah.
So he kicked them out and then kept their stuff.
And when you see Banu Nadir, for example, he had a different excuse for them. He went to ask them to help him to raise some money so he can pay for the mistakes of his followers because they killed someone. And while he was waiting, he just ran away and he left and he went to Medina. And his companions like, what happened? He was like, Gabriel told me they were planning to kill me, assassinate me, so let's raid them. So what's your proof here?
Yeah, I had a dream. Now, it's just amazing because think about how many revelations he gets like that when he wants something. So he wants to marry his best friend's 6-year-old daughter. And, oh, I got a revelation. God wants me to have your 6-year-old daughter as my wife. Then he went, he goes to Jerusalem on this flying donkey monster. And then, oh, so that's going to be ours too. It's like, wait, you could just wake up at one day and say, hey, like me, I could wake up right now and say, I had a dream that Elon Musk has to give me all his money.
Yeah.
Therefore what? It's mine now because I had a dream or I'm claiming a revelation. It's just interesting stuff about how you can claim it and then just kick people off of land.
And for the other tribe, Banu Qurayza, which was a different story, he killed all the male above 14, 13. He checked their hair of puberty, and then based on that,
makes them drop their clothes off, and so he's checking them to see who's reached puberty.
Yeah, so he killed around 600 people on that day. And what was the excuse? He was raided by these tribes, Arab tribes. The Jews said, we have nothing to do with it. And then he said, no, you broke your covenant with me, and you have to pay for it. So he just went and he raided them. I think he was just mad at them, and he tried to find an excuse. And Khaybar, the same thing. It's far away from him. They never harmed him. They never did anything. Just one day in the morning, his army is shouting. People are...
It says they're walking out to do their work.
Exactly.
They're heading out to the fields to do their work.
And suddenly they saw his army, and he was like, Allahu Akbar kharibat Khaybar, like God, Allah is great. Now we will destroy Khaybar. And since then, even now in these protests around the world, people are shouting, Khaybar, Khaybar, ya Yahud, Jaysh Muhammad, Sawfa Ya'ud, means Khaybar, Khaybar, oh Jews, the army of Muhammad is coming back. So they are reminding the whole world that Muhammad massacred Jews on the day of Khaybar. He took their land, he took their belongings, and he made them, they were like working for him as slaves, actually.
Yeah, he made them dhimmis,
Dhimmis. So when we are in the 21st century, and one in UK, a Muslim, is reminding the world that the days of Muhammad are coming back. We will do to the Jews the same thing that our prophet did to them. That has to tell us something, that this hatred is attached to religion, is not separated from it.
Mm-hmm. And the thing I can't get past is the hypocrisy. Right, the hypocrisy, where Muhammad can punish an entire tribe because one of them pulls a prank.
Yeah.
Or he can punish an entire tribe and just say, I had a dream. I had a dream, or I had a vision, or Gabriel told me they're going to get me. Therefore, we have to punish this entire tribe. Or even the Qurayza Jews.
Yeah.
The accusation against them is that they're somehow conspiring behind the scenes with the Meccans. And you know, this is from Muslim sources, so you're not sure exactly what to take seriously and what not to take seriously. But you can grant everything they're saying. You can say, okay, I'm going to take your version of events.
Yeah.
Their version of events, they knew exactly who they were accusing of conspiring with these guys, and yet he punishes the entire population. Men, women, and children. If you had reached puberty and you're a man, you were dead. Everyone else became the slaves and sex slaves of Muslims. So he could actually punish the entire population for something where you knew who the guilty people were, right?
Yeah.
You could have said him, and him.
Yeah.
They're going to be punished. No, punish the entire tribe. And the reason I find this absolutely hypocritical is we would agree, you know, if you have an army, you know, then it's your army versus their army. Try to keep the civilians out of it and so on. There was no concept of that for Muhammad. It was someone from your group did this, therefore we will crush you all.
Actually, the Jewish tribes, if you read history, didn't have army. They used to be under the protection of other Arab tribes. So they don't have an army of their own.
And that's the reason the Kenuka survived. They had some Arab allies. Muhammad wanted to kill them all over a prank. He wanted them all dead over a prank. And they had some allies who stepped in and said, no, don't kill them.
So going back to my point that this is related to religion, I grew up as a Muslim. And the first thing we learn is the Fatiha, the opening, how to pray with it. And everybody around me, not just me, we knew that the last verses of the Fatiha are about Jews and Christians. If you read them, the path of those those you have blessed, means they're talking to Allah, not those who you are displeased with or who are astray. مغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. It means Jews and Christians. Actually, it says the ones that you cursed or you are angry at them, you are mad at them, and those who went astray. The ones who went astray are Christians. The ones who are cursed are the Jews. Imagine you repeat that 18 times a day. And you are just repeating that in every prayer, every time, and in your mind it's related to Jews and Christians, then you have a problem there, because that's brainwashing, actually. A child is raised to remember that the ones who are cursed are Jews, the ones who went astray are Christians, and are repeated daily, 5 times a day, and you repeat it in every unit in the prayer, not just one of them. So imagine a kid growing up like this. What is he going to think about Jews and Christians when he grows up?
You definitely don't want to be like those guys, right? So wait, just to recap here for people who aren't familiar with Islamic prayers.
Yeah.
So you're saying you have your 5 daily prayers.
Yes.
And during your prayers, you recite the opening surah of the Quran, Surah Al-Fatiha.
Yeah.
And you're saying in Surah Al-Fatiha, you've got this, you've got Muslims around the world saying, Allah, don't make us like these two groups. Don't make us like those, the ones who are cursed or the ones who are astray. It doesn't say Jews or Christians there. But you open up any commentary and so on, it tells you exactly that this is the language used to describe the Jews, and this is about the Christians. So you're saying that Muslims, over and over again around the world, all day, every day, there's some prayers going on from the Muslim community. Don't make us like the Jews. Don't make us like the Jews. Don't make us like the Jews.
Yeah.
And
nor the Christians.
Not like the Jews. Not like the Christians. Now, a little side note here. But what's extra disturbing in all of this is that when you have these interfaith events, where Muslims will go in there, the Muslims will tell the Christians, hey guys, let's show you how to pray in Arabic, and they'll have Christians recite this prayer.
The Fatiha.
Yeah, talking about how they're astray and how the Jews are under Allah's curse.
So it's repeated 7. If you pray just the 5 mandatory prayers, that's 17 repetition per day. If you add to it, because we don't really just pray those 17, we pray other prayers, we add them to them. So most likely it's 20 or more. So you are repeating 20 times a day the same thing if you are really a devout Muslim. Not only that, like when you read the history of Islam, who put poison for Muhammad? They used to ask us at school, at the mosque, who poisoned the Prophet? Yahud la'anahumullah. So a kid in kindergarten, he's saying Yahud la'anahumullah. Jews, maybe Allah curse them. And who bewitched your Prophet? Al-Yahud la'anahumullah. So kids are just programmed.
So when you're talking about the bewitched, this is when Muhammad, and there's disagreement as to whether this was 6 months or 2 years, but he walks around with these delusional thoughts and false beliefs. He's behaving very weirdly, and eventually he snaps out of it, and it was a Jewish magician.
He accused a Jew.
Yeah, the Jews made me act like...
Did it. Yeah.
Wow.
Through Wi-Fi.
So basically anything that goes wrong, it's the Jews.
Yes. And not only that, he taught us, or they taught us through history, that the Jews always they wanted to harm Muslims. For example, they put hadiths. They call them Israelites, the Jewish hadiths they are lies, basically. They infiltrated our doctrines as Muslims. Another accusation, they are now in Israel, I have been told since childhood, in Israel they are planting trees so they can hide behind them, because they know in the end days we will fight against them, and every tree and every rock will cry, will shout, "Hey Muslim, come kill this Jew, he's behind me." Only one tree, it seems that tree likes Jews, so they are planting it everywhere, so it will save them on the last day.
Yeah, let me read one. There are a ton of these. Let me just read one so people know what we're talking about. So this is Sahih Muslim, 7339 in the Darus Salam edition. It can be in different editions. They use a different numbering system, but in the Darus Salam edition, it was narrated that Abu Hurairah said, "The Messenger of Allah said, the hour will not begin until the Muslims fight the Jews, and the Muslims will kill them, until a Jew hides behind a rock or a tree, and the rock or tree will say, 'O Muslim, O slave of Allah, there is a Jew behind me, come and kill him,' except the gharqad, a thorny tree, for it is one of the trees of the Jews." Yeah. So this is like obviously a call for genocide.
Yes.
You don't get the end. You don't get to spend eternity with your virgins until you fight the Jews to such an extent that the remaining Jews are hiding behind rocks and trees, and then nature itself is going to rise up against the Jews to help you hunt them and find them and kill them, except this one tree that's actually still loyal to the Jews. It's not going to snitch on the Jews. This tree won't snitch on the Jews. And so you're pointing out, so this is, guys, this is from Muhammad. This is not some, this stuff is from Muhammad. But you're saying that it then becomes a rumor among Muslims, and I heard it from you, but I've also heard this before, that it's a rumor that Jews are secretly running around and planting all these trees because these are the only trees that won't snitch on them, and so they're going to hide.
Not the Iron Dome.
Yeah, not the Iron Dome. It's this tree. They're planting them everywhere so they can run and hide, and then Muslims won't be able to find them.
Yeah, and another one, when you look at our Islamic history, we used to call Jews, they still do it until now, sons of pigs and apes. And it's an insult. Until now, they call them like that. And I'm sure in these protests, they call them the same thing, sons of apes and pigs, because they believe that a tribe of Jews, they broke the Sabbath. So because they broke the Sabbath, Allah turned them to apes and to pigs.
Yeah, and that one's interesting because for a while, Muhammad had declared that Allah had transformed the Jews into some animals, But he wasn't sure which ones yet. He eventually decided it was apes and pigs. But before that, it's interesting because he wasn't sure, so he was nervous around certain animals. Let me give two.
One of them is the rat, or like
And for that one, he actually gave a scientific experiment. So
how to prove they are Jewish.
Yeah. So this one narrated Abu Huraira. The prophet said, a group of Israelites were lost. Nobody knows what they did, but I do not see them except that they were cursed and transformed into mouses or rats. For if you put the milk of a she-camel in front of a mouse or a rat, it will not drink it. But if the milk of a sheep is put in front of it, it will drink it. So he's actually recommending a kind of scientific experiment. Hey, guys, I can prove that these rats are Jews. They're following Jewish dietary laws. They're still kosher.
Even as rats, they're still very religious.
They won't, because they weren't allowed to drink camel milk. He says, then the rat won't drink camel milk, but it'll drink sheep's milk like the Jews are allowed to do. And therefore, these rats there are Jews. And then there was another time where someone offered him lizard, and it's like, I don't know, that could be a Jew. I don't want to accidentally eat a Jew when he got transformed into a lizard.
Every bad or every creature that Muhammad was afraid of or he didn't like, he linked it to Jews. And this is anti-Semitism clear. And I mean, you can't define it better than this. And the problem, many Muslims still until today, they believe in it. And when they see this conflict over a land, they justify everything that they have in Islam. Look at the Jews, what they are doing. So we are right to think of them like this. And we start justifying every hatred, every belief that makes them, they are not human. And the killing starts when you make people, when you remove humanity from.
Dehumanize them.
So that's when you start thinking their blood is okay to spill. It's okay to kill them because they are not human beings, actually.
Yeah, and we find this in the Quran, of course. So Surah 98, verse 6, this is the Haleli Khan translation. Surah 98, verse 6, verily those who disbelieve in the religion of Islam, the Quran, and Prophet Muhammad from among the people of the Scripture, Jews and Christians, and al-mushrikun, so these are people who associate partners with Allah, so idolaters, something like that, will abide in the fire of hell. They are the worst of creatures. So notice, this is Muhammad who starts off with, hey, it's Jews, Christians, and Muslims all united against the pagans. Then he moves to Medina with his community. The Jews reject him, and then you get verses like Surah 5, verse 82, which puts the Jews and the polytheists together against the Christians and the Muslims. And then eventually the Christians reject him too. And then you get these passages where the worst of creatures, Jews and Christians are the worst of creatures. And then, of course, you get the calls to fight us, like in Surah 9, verse 29, fight those who do not believe until we pay the jizya and acknowledge our inferiority.
Just in recent days, a plane in Dagestan, the Muslim mob, they went to the airport and broke through, and they started looking for passengers there. We want to find Jews. And that tells you why all Muslim communities all over the world, in Pakistan, in Morocco, in Algeria, in Saudi Arabia, in Palestine, wherever they are, they share this hatred towards Jews. What is the common denominator between them, except Islam? So when you see people are shouting or chanting slogans against Jews, and they are from the Islamic text, it's a proof that Islam is the root of this hatred. It's not the conflict over a land. It's not the conflict with Israel. It's not the start of Israel as a state in 1948. Through history, Islam taught us to hate Jews, to kill them, to get rid of them because they are impure, they are unclean. They try to harm the Muslim community at the beginning. They try to harm the Prophet, and you name it. The list goes on.
Mm-hmm. And just one more passage I wanted to read here. This is Sahih Muslim. Again, this is it's 4594 in the Darussalam edition. You might, if you have a different edition, if you're online on sunnah.com or something like that, it'll have a different number. But Umar bin al-Khattab said that he heard the Messenger of Allah say, "I shall certainly expel the Jews and Christians from the Arabian Peninsula until I leave only Muslims there." Now, why I find that interesting is there were Jews and Christians in Arabia before Muhammad.
True.
Muhammad comes along, and once he rises to power, he can say, "Everyone go. I only want Muslims here. Everyone else has to get out." And he can expel Jewish tribes if they're strong enough. If they have alliances with other Arab tribes, then he might expel them. If they don't have alliances, he can just slaughter them. But he can just go into an area and say, "I want this area just for Muslims. Everyone else get out, even though you were here before me."
Yeah.
That's not what happened in Israel, but that's what Muslims say happened in Israel, right? It's just that there's the Palestinians, they're living there, they're there forever, they're their own people group, until Jews come in and kick them off their land, and now they're just fighting to get their land back. Point is, that's not at all what happened.
Yeah.
Historically, that is factually false. That did not happen. But that is the standard story. And the point is, even if we went with the standard story, which is false, it would be completely justified using the exact same method of Muhammad. According to Muhammad, one religious group can come into an area, take over the area, and say, "Everyone else get out." And there's nothing you can do about it as long as they're more powerful. So all I ever hear is hypocrisy, because Muslims are saying, "Look what they did, look what they did." And they get it wrong, what actually happened. But they say, "Look what they did. This is wrong. This is immoral. This is evil." And it's exactly what your prophet actually did to the Jews and Christians of Arabia.
I think we need to do another video where we discuss the historical facts about the conflict.
All right. Well, I hope this was a good introduction into the problem. As far as I can tell, because the Jews of Arabia rejected Muhammad, and they were the ones who were in the best position to expose him as a false prophet. Jews and Christians, because he appealed to our scriptures and he appealed to us as people who were going to confirm him. When Jews and Christians started rejecting him, that was a massive threat to his community. He had put so much confidence in their testimony that they were going to confirm him, and their scriptures are going to confirm him, that when it turned out to be the exact opposite, this is a threat to, I mean, if I say, "Hey, you can know I'm a prophet," because they're going to say it, and they don't say it, they say, "What are you talking about? This guy's the most obvious false prophet in history." That's a threat to his status as a prophet. And so he becomes more and more enraged at them. Why doesn't he want Jews and Christians in the Arabian Peninsula at all? He knows they will convince his followers that he's a false prophet. So you have to get these guys as far away from you as possible, can't have them here. And then, of course, you end up with all these stories. Muhammad, I mean, even as he's dying, is calling Allah to destroy the Jews and Christians.
Yes.
And he says it's because they turn their places, they turn the graves of their prophets into places of worship, even though, I mean, he's in the mosque in Medina, right? So place of worship. So his own followers, by his own standard, would be cursed. But you just have this, now it's built into Islam, that Jews are the supreme enemies of Muslims. You don't get your rewards on Judgment Day until you slaughter the Jews. And then all of a sudden you get the nation of Israel, and it becomes the target of rage around the world. And so, guys, we look at this situation, it's a really, really rough situation. You wonder what you can do, but I have to say, until we deal with the hatred of Jews in the Muslim sources, you're not going to see a nice outcome here.